The Joe Rogan Experience.
I saw this play one time. It was written by Steve Martin, and it was a fictitious meeting between Picasso and Einstein in a bar in France. It was called Picasso at La Pile. And in it, Picasso's painting, and he's talking, and he says, an artist must stay well fucked. Otherwise, his eye goes from the page to the windowsill, down to the street, across, over to the cafe where the girl's sitting with her skirt up. And it's like that always stuck with me, right? If an artist doesn't stay well fucked, all he's going to be doing is thinking about getting laid.
Yeah, men will understand that, but men will rarely say that in the presence of women. And so because of that, women either don't believe it, or they dismiss it, or they think you're a pig for expressing it.
Right.
All those things. But men alone, they'll go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like if you say that, you got to stay well fucked. They're like, oh yeah, of course. You have to. Otherwise you get fucking distracted. It is true.
Women have no idea. I heard a thing on NPR one time, probably 15 years ago, and they were doing a story about this woman who decided to transition to be a man. And so she documented it and did like an audio thing. And she talked about how when she was into it and started feeling her testosterone, and she would become attracted to women. And she goes, it didn't have to be a boob. It could be an elbow. It could be her ankle. It could be whatever. And she goes, I finally understood 13-year-old boys.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Pretty fucking distracting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you got to keep your shit together.
Well, it's not just that. It's a biological imperative. It's a reason why people breed. Right. It's like that's built into the DNA to make people attracted to females so they can spread their DNA. And that's what it is. It's that simple.
It's it.
To deny that is crazy. But you've got men denying it because they want women to like them. And then you got women dismissing it because they think that the men who express it in an honest way are pigs and sexist, and they exhibit toxic masculinity, which is that's a hilarious expression, because you need to thank toxic masculinity for all the bridges, all the fucking, all the jets, all the rockets, all this toxic masculinity. If you break down all the things that men have invented, and all these toxic men have prevented like you from being murdered in war and protected the country, and all the different things that you could attribute to toxic masculinity, most of it's positive.
Okay. Now I forgot what that was, because I had this question is sitting in my head since you started talking about toxic masculinity, and I fucking
can't even get the word out.
I can't even say it. I can't even fucking sovereignty.
Toxic masculinity is a ridiculous thing to say. There's terrible men. There's terrible human beings that happen to be men. There's also terrible human beings that happen to be women. There's not toxic femininity. They just happen to be women who developed in a terrible way, most likely with bad parents, most likely abuse, physical and or sexual, and then they become a monster at the end of all this process. This is the same with men. Bad men are just bad human beings that happen to be men. And when you see terrible things happen, it's not because of toxic masculinity. It's because it's a bad person. I believe in the individual. There's individuals, and some of them are bad and some of them are good. But if you just want to generalize against all men, like you're on an uphill road. There's too many, and obviously not me, I've never invented anything, but there's too many things that men have done that are positive. There's way too many. There's too many things. If you wanted to have like a scoreboard, and you wanted to compete men versus women, what are you going to say when you look at all the different accomplishments that men have made? And obviously it's not me and it's not you. I'm not talking about us, like that we're on a team. But I'm saying like just this concept that men are bad. And you hear this a lot today, especially white men. I don't want to hear from white men. Okay, well that's crazy, because there's a lot of nice white men. Like this is dumb.
Phil Donahue.
Yeah, he's one of them. But just this idea that you can generalize about one entire group, whether it's by gender or whether it's by race or by anything. But you can do that with white men. You can't really do that with brown women. You can't say, here's a problem with black women. You know, all black women are this, that. People would go, you're a racist piece of shit. But if you say, here's the problem with white men, both are gross. Both statements, so generalizations are disgusting, whether they're a gender-based generalization or a sex-based generalization, whatever it is.
So they would say that that's okay to say that about white men because of the power dynamic.
Yes,
exactly. That white men have power, so if we say that, it's not
even racist.
Right.
Right.
That's No, I don't know. I'm not a
It's a dumb argument.
I'm not a professor, so I don't know if that's true or not. But
the white power. This is the thing. White men have more power, sure, but they also have more power than white men. It's a tiny percentage
of white men
who have the power that we're talking about. When you're talking about CEOs, when you're talking about judges or what? Yes, white men are in those positions of power, but they're also in those positions of power over most white men. Like it's a very small amount of people that have an extraordinary amount of influence. Yeah, they happen to be white men, but when you say white men suck, look at this. Like, no, that's the smallest percentage of people. Who are these billionaires? Who are these CEOs? Who are these judges? Who are these people that are in positions of power that happen to be white men?
So have you ever, now, I don't know. I heard a guy refer to himself, like a regular guy, refer to himself as a cis male.
Oh, I'm going to do that from now on.
Has anyone ever done that? It kind of blew me. Like, I didn't even know what it was when I first heard it.
Yeah. It's nonsense. You're a male. If you're a trans woman and you want to be referred to only as a woman, fine. No problem with that. But I'm not going to call myself a cis male. That's some new made up shit.
It sounds like you're calling yourself a sissy.
Sissy, yeah.
Like when I first heard it, I'm like,
Cisgender.
I thought that's what a guy was doing. When I first heard it, a guy said, I'm a cis male, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're a sissy? I didn't know what it meant.
I read this tweet once by this person who was saying basically to shame people into using that, ram it down their throats, and eventually they'll accept it and it'll become normal. And that you have to, because if they want to refer to us as trans, we have to refer to them as cis, and we have to force them to refer to themselves as cis. Yes. Yes.
I didn't even know that's where it came from.
It's to make a clear distinction. So instead of making it look like a trans woman is lesser, instead of that, you have cisgender and transgender.
Oh,
so they're because you're adding to that name, that prefix.
Yeah.
Because you're adding to both now.
Yeah.
Now you've equalized the playing field. You leveled the playing field. But the problem with that is trans is extremely rare. It's the reason why you have that prefix in the first place, because it's really, really unusual to meet a trans woman, despite how the internet would have you feel.
I was always, I'm sure it's a tough life to be a transgendered person, like incredibly tough. I was always a little jealous.
No, you're not. Why don't you become a woman?
I was always like, God, it looks like fun.
Why don't you dress up like Meghan McCain and just start going on rants on your show? You'd be free.
I could do that.
You would have such a fucking free pass. I mean, look, Caitlyn Jenner killed a lady. Nobody even talks about it.
Nobody even says anything.
No, just slammed her into traffic, not paying attention, rear-ended her into oncoming traffic. She's dead now, and no one even brings it up. Everyone's like, well, she's so brave. Do you think she's intact? I heard she cut it off. Oh, my God, is it gone?
Yeah, I don't... But that was an accident, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like...
It was a careless accident. But still, she rear-ended somebody and slammed her into oncoming traffic.
Okay.
And whether or not she was on her phone, I don't know.